So one of the questions is, poetry, why? Well, because it's part of the exam. So even though a poem may be short, most of the time you can't read it fast. It's like molasses, or trying to get ketchup out of a bottle. I put that in there to give you an idea, because we're going to be seeing a lot more things like this. So with poetry, there's so many things to take into consideration. There's the aspect of how it sounds, of what it means, and often of how it looks. In some circles, there's a certain aversion to poetry. Some consider it outdated, too difficult, or not worth the time. They ask, why does it take so long to read something so short? Well, yeah, it is if you're used to Twitter or not reading poetry. Think about the connections poetry has to music. Couldn't you consider some of your favorite lyrics poetry? Tupac, for example, wrote a book of poetry called The Rose That Grew from Concrete. A lot of his music was taken from there. And if you read the reviews on Amazon, people that have never read poetry before think it's amazing. So, at many points in history, across many cultures, poetry was considered the highest form of expression. Why do people write poetry? Because they can and because they want to. Or because they want to and because they can. So, I love that line, because this is a line taken from Federico Garcia Lorca, from his poem Lucía Martínez. He says, porque quiero y porque puedo. So you ask yourself, why do we need to read poetry? Because you're going to take the CLEP exam. Once you move beyond that, it will be a lot easier. So, what are some reasons why we read or why we write poetry, apart from the CLEP exam? To become aware, to see things in a different way, to put together a mental jigsaw puzzle, to move the senses, to provoke emotions, and to find order. Pablo Neruda, a poet from Chile, said he writes poetry, he said he wrote poetry to set order. And when he put his pen on paper, at the end of writing a poem, life made much more sense to him, and there was much more order to the universe. So, for that reason alone, everything will make more sense once this is understood.